In today's video, I want to compare Denmark to Dubai. You know, Denmark where I used to live and Dubai where I'm living now, to give you a realistic picture of what sort of quality of life changes I've seen moving here, and also hopefully give you some sort of insight into what sort of quality of life changes you could see if you decide to move here. So I think this video will be very good for anyone who's, consider moving here, or maybe you find it interesting, but maybe you're a little bit scared because you see all this money that's flowing around in Dubai, people flexing on Instagram and all this, and maybe you have a little bit of a skewed look on prices and how much it actually costs to just sort of live here like a normal and mortal human being. Because I myself was pretty skeptical moving here first, because I was like, wait, there's so much money here, like am I gonna be able to even afford living, right? And I think you'll have a pretty pleasant surprise after going through this entire video. But if you're new to the channel, let me just introduce myself. My name is Rasmus. I'm the owner of Minix. It's a performance marketing agency where we specialize in helping e-commerce brands scale through UGC videos and paid advertising. Also, if you end up enjoying this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That would massively help me out. And also, if you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment down below. I'll read all the comments and answer all questions. And yeah, maybe you can contribute to another video coming up if you have some good questions. But with that being said, let's get into it. So first, safety, environment, and this sort of things was a massive reason for me moving here, but this is not what the video is about. But just, yeah, if you're like skeptical or anything about that, about like safety, environment and stuff like that, I definitely feel much more safe here. I mean, I don't even lock my door to my apartment because it's just so safe here. And that's coming from someone, who used to live in Denmark. And Denmark usually, from what I remember, scores pretty high on like safety scores. And even I've felt a difference. So if you live in the States or Canada or the UK, like London and places like that have a pretty high crime rate, then I think you would probably have an even more pleasant surprise moving here than I have. And yeah, environment, I mean, from my experience, great people, great environment just to be in, especially if you are running your own business and trying to make more money and making your life better. I think the people here, the environment, are perfect for those types of people if you're someone running your own business. But there's 4 categories I want to talk about in this video specifically. There's rent prices, there's the income tax, there's taxis, or like transportation in general, and then there's food. And then I'm just gonna break down, the numbers basically from Dubai and how it is in Dubai, and then compare it to Denmark. And then, you can try and compare for yourself for your own home country. But rent prices, right? So I own an apartment in Copenhagen, and that's rented out right now. Copenhagen is also like a very, very expensive area to live, just in general. I think in the whole world, I think it's probably top 10 or top 15 or something like that in terms of like rent prices. But I have a 1-bedroom apartment. It's like 70 square meters, and for all the US people, that's around 700 square feet, and that rents out for $2,000 a month, right? A 1-bedroom in the city center, basically. So like, location is great. It's still high. Like, I personally would not rent my apartment for $2,000, but it seems like it's the market price and where the market is at, because I rented out in a couple days. I think it took me like 3 or 4 days to rent out. And yeah, now I have a tenant. He's been there for 8 months. He's happy with everything. And so yeah, personally, I wouldn't rent it, but Copenhagen in general is just super expensive. Take that and then compare it to Dubai, right? Obviously in Dubai, and I've said this in another video, like you can make Dubai as cheap or as expensive as you really want to. Like if you want to spend 100 grand on rent, and I know people who do that, you can absolutely do that. But you can also live like a more normal human being. So I went online onto Property Finder, which is where you would find an apartment, and I'll actually post a video on Thursday where I'll actually show you how to find apartments, kind of give you some examples of where you can live and sort of what rent prices are like different places, because you obviously don't have to live in the marina like I do, right? I spent $4,000 on rent here in the marina, and that's very expensive. I also decided to locate myself in one of the most expensive areas, in one of the most expensive buildings in the marina. It's nice, not gonna lie, but you obviously don't have to do that. And I'm also gonna move out of the marina, right? So one of the places I've been looking at is what's called Creek Harbor, Dubai Creek Harbor. And for the same price, $2,000 a month, I think it's even a little bit less, you can find a super nice 1-bedroom apartment where the building is from like 20 2022 or 2021, because everything in Creek Harbor is basically brand new. I don't think there's anything in Creek Harbor that's less than like 3 or 4 years old. Compare that to my apartment in Copenhagen. That's like from when the dinosaurs were around, and like, okay, not the dinosaurs, but it's from like 1960 or something like that. It's super, super old, right? And that's sort of, some people find it very charming. I don't. I would rather live in a new building with amenities. This building from Creek Harbor has a pool, like there's security, there's a gym, like there's everything you would need basically, where I don't have that in my apartment back home. And it's the same price, right? And Creek Harbor is a very nice place, not gonna lie. I think that is much more compelling to me than a place like Copenhagen. So like rent prices, you can make it super, super expensive, but you don't have to. So I'm looking at a 2-bedroom apartment right now in something that's called Dubai Hills. That's a little bit less than 3,000 a month, which is also super nice. And it's cheaper than where I'm at right now. I'm just paying premium. And what you're seeing online is also just people paying a premium for being in the really, really nice areas. But to be honest, like I've lived in the marina now, it's overpriced and there's a bunch of traffic. It's horrible to get out of. So I think if you're living here or considering moving here and you have a little bit more of a budget where you maybe not have endless money like some people do in the world, then don't look at the marina. Look at something like Creek Harbor, for example. It's super nice. But yeah, so that's rent. Now, income tax, right? And this is sort of where a little bit of the magic happens. Because if you don't know, Denmark is one of the highest tax countries in the world. We've been so for a large number of years, depending on sort of what articles you look at online. But at least the articles I've seen and the one I found just doing a little bit of research for this video, we were #1. And so how they measure it is they look at something called tax burden, total tax burden. And total tax burden is basically just where you take the gross domestic product and then divide that out by the total amount of taxes someone would incur, living in that place. And so Denmark ranks #1 on that spot, which means I have much more of an incentive to actually move to Dubai, right? And the average tax burden was like something silly like 46 or 47%, which means basically half the money you make goes on average, if you're an average guy or girl, not a high earner, then your tax burden is going to be even more. But just for the average person, that's 46 or 47%, right? So if you make 100,000 a year, you only get to keep 50% of that. And then you can pay 2,000 a month for rent, right? Great, perfect. So you don't get very far with money. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I looked at this same article and I just was kind of interested to see what country in the world is the one with the least tax burden. And that was actually Dubai, or UAE. Specifically, where the total tax burden was like less than 1%, which is pretty crazy. So you can see I have a large incentive to actually move to Dubai because I make essentially double the money in disposable income. And so let's say your total tax burden is 50%, right? And you make 100K a year, then that 50K that you actually save by just moving here because you don't have a tax burden of 46, 47%, that pays for an entire apartment plus food for a year. And you still have the same amount of money left than you did in your home country, right? You would still have 50K left after food and rent to go spend on whatever you want. So your disposable income is much, much higher. You can live a much better quality of life than what at least I could be doing back home in Denmark, right? And even if your rent increases, let's just say 50%, you will still have more money left over because your rent and everything, like everything from the rent to food to bills to eating out to transportation, like everything would have to increase 100% for you to have the same left over in your home country, right? So that's where a lot of the magic happens, and in just saving a hell of a lot in your income tax, right? And VAT and corporate tax and dividend tax, and like there's so many taxes that if you're in the US or UK or Denmark, Europe in general, I mean, you have so many taxes, it's impossible to figure out, right? So income tax and just overall tax burden is obviously much, much lower in Dubai, so you can live a much higher quality of life for the same money and have more money left over in Dubai than what you would do back home, right? So let's move on to the third thing here, taxes, or like transportation. I started off with taxis, but then, I figured why the hell not make it just transportation in general. So taxis here are super cheap. I just rented a car a week ago from when you see this video, but until then, which is now 7.5 months or something like that, I've just been taking taxis everywhere because I work from home, I walk to the gym, so I didn't really have a big need for a taxi, right? And so I play a lot of tennis. I play with a coach every single Thursday, and that's like a 10-15 minute ride. and the price for that taxi each way is $7. To me, at least, that's super cheap, because taking a taxi from my dad, for example, back home in Denmark to the airport, he lives like 12 minutes away from the airport, is $37. So you can see that I only pay like 1/5 the price for a taxi here than what I do in Denmark. So for me, massive saving. Has been a pleasure to just take taxis everywhere because it's dirt cheap. But obviously now I take a taxi like multiple times a week, so it kind of adds up pretty quickly. So I was like, hey, let me just rent a car now, and then I'll just buy a car when I get back to Dubai after summer. But speaking of buying a car, right? In Denmark, we have a lot of taxes included in buying a car. You pay like at least double, I would say. I think it's maybe 80% minimum on top of the actual price. So if you have a car worth 100K in Denmark, like minimum, you would have to pay 180K just in taxes. But I think if the car is like 100K, you would probably pay close to like 2.5. So you would end up paying like 350 maybe to 300, something like that, which is like super absurd, right? So I just took my specific situation. You know, I'm looking to buy a car when I get back from Dubai this summer. And so I'm looking at buying an Audi A3 2020. That's sort of the car I've been eyeing. In Dubai, right? 2020 model. That is 20K in Dubai, cash, you know, buy it from a dealer, you get a little bit of warranty and whatnot. In Denmark, to buy the same car, I just went on a website, right? Audi A3 2020, that car starts at 50K. So I'm already saving, just by living here, I'm saving 30K in taxes. This is pure tax just by living here compared to Denmark, right? So I would never buy an Audi A3 2020 in Denmark, but I can very comfortably buy it here outright. So that's a massive difference. And again, renting a car, I just rented a car, right? I'm renting it for 2 months. It's like a brand new, it's an MG something, not super fancy anything, but I'm renting it for 2 months. It's 2023 model, has like 19 kilometers on it. And that rent is like $680 a month. Cars here and transportation in general are super cheap compared to at least Denmark. And I'm assuming if you live in Europe, cars in general here are just gonna be super, super cheap for you because you don't have like a crazy amount of taxes on cars. You have a zero. Now, the last thing here is food. So I had to go to a website called Numbeo to do that. They're basically just a comparison website where you can see, you know, rent prices averaged out city versus city. And looking at grocery prices, groceries in Dubai compared to Copenhagen are 37% less. It's way, way cheaper in Dubai actually than it is in Copenhagen. So again, I just have a lot more purchasing power. One thing I have noticed though is that if you're looking to buy something like ground meat or ground beef and specific types of meats in general, they will most likely be more expensive just because, and it kind of depends on what chain you go to as well, because you have some very high-end chains, you have some very low like cheap chains where you can get, you know, everything just for cheaper. And that's basically just because everything is kind of imported into Dubai, right? So depending on where it comes from, if you want to get a steak from Argentina, it's obviously going to be more expensive than something from Australia because Australia is closer by, right? So that's just something to keep in mind, and that can fluctuate wildly depending on what exactly you want to go for and what you want to get. But I also looked at something like Los Angeles, and it seems like Dubai is a little bit cheaper as well, like 10% if I'm not mistaken, than Los Angeles, buying groceries in Dubai. So yeah, groceries in Dubai, like your food budget is probably going to be the same. I don't cook here. I get meal prep. So I pay around $400 a month for meal prep. And that's 5 days a week, 2 meals a day. They deliver every single day, freshly made. And for me, that just makes sense because I don't think I could even cook and make food cheaper myself. So yeah, that's also another option. They have a tons of like meal prep companies here you can use, and most of them deliver like every single day or every other day. So it's like fresh. I had a meal prep service when I was living in Spain as well, and they only delivered once a week. And if you let the food sit for a week, it goes bad. I would say it starts tasting a little bit funny. But here, most of them deliver every single day or every other day. And yeah, for me, that just, the time savings in that are just phenomenal. So yeah, that's also another option you can look into. But that pretty much sums up today's video. I hope you got some value from it, and I hope I could kind of show you that Dubai is maybe not as expensive as you think. And look out for the video coming Thursday, because I'll basically just be jumping on Property Finder and kind of walk you through what sort of options you have depending on your budget, so you can actually visually see what rent prices are at in different areas. But yeah, I hope this video was great. I hope you got some information from it. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down below in the comment section. I would love to answer. And if you got some value from it, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. I would massively appreciate that. And yeah, I'll see you on Thursday. Take care. Bye.